story was that I had a really strained relationship with my dad. It was pretty unbearable for a really long time. I think I decided pretty early on that I needed to move out. I think in like year 7 I started looking to my options as renting, which is crazy because there aren't any. I started working casually when I was 14. I started saving because I knew that that was what I would have to do if I wanted to secure a rental property as soon as I could. Finished school July 2019. I did some work experience to get those points, and they offered me a job right away. So that was kind of what I did after school, and I've been there ever since. I also have a second job at a restaurant. I'm really grateful for the work that I have and the opportunities that have come my way. But it was at the cost of, I think, my education. So I think growing up I always saw myself as someone who really valued education. I really enjoyed school. I really got a lot out of it. It was a hard decision for me and a lengthy one to decide not to go to uni and to put my kind of financial stability first.
I was quite lucky in that my parents have been able to let me live with them up until last year, rent-free, which I took as quite a privilege. I watched my friends go through renting and the stress of renting, and it really put me off. So I had the idea of saving for a house one day. But over the years I've realised that that's quite a struggle.
Myself and 2 other friends, we secured a rental property for what I thought was like a pretty good price in terms of the market. But also I think that as a young person, like I could see some of my friends who were trying to get rental properties really struggling with it, whereas for me I felt that I had a pretty fortunate advantage in that I work in real estate and could ask, my co-workers what would be the best thing to put in my application and how to kind of go about the application process.
There's very few secure jobs within what I'm looking for, and so I'm kind of finding I have to make it myself. I'm having to network to find those jobs, and I'm working on creating them where I can, but they're few and far between. So I was quite lucky with COVID to an extent in that I managed to get JobKeeper through one of my jobs. For the first period up until September, for the first time in a very long while, I had a regular income, a guaranteed regular income, which was really amazing. I was able to put most of it into savings, and at that point I was offered to move in with my friends. So that gave me the financial security to go, all right, I'm going to have a buffer in my savings.
I was in a very stable housing situation and very financially secure until my almost 30-year marriage broke down. And then I went very quickly into a space where my income was nothing approaching adequate to meet what I had to contribute towards. And then the house that I'd been living in as part of that marriage had to be sold. And so I was homeless and couch surfing for a couple of months. And from there it was, what's the next house sitting opportunity? Has anybody got something that's in between being like you've got tenants here and you've got tenants here and you've got a couple of days there? And when none of that worked, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor of my grandson's room. There was a day where I packed everything in the car and started driving and didn't know where I was sleeping that night. It's a horrific level of stress. When my husband and I actually started our relationship, I earned much more than he did. He was an apprentice and I was a permanent public servant, and we were both working full time. As We progressed our careers and progressed our relationship, and we reached the point where we decided to have a family. His income had overtaken mine quite substantially. So the logical choice in terms of being able to pay the mortgage and provide for the children and run the car and all of that was for me to take the unpaid leave and for him to stay at work. I was a stay-at-home parent for 4 years and with no income. If COVID had happened a year earlier, I would have been in a very, very difficult situation because all of those house sitting opportunities just would not have happened because people wouldn't have been travelling overseas.
With COVID, my primary job, there was a little bit of anxiety surrounding that, like the real estate, the market in Canberra, there was some stress there, but where I really felt it was in my second job in hospitality.
My now ex-husband had super and I had super, and when you added it together, it was enough for us as a couple to live comfortably in our retirement. But as soon as it became clear to me that my marriage was in trouble, I looked at my super and I figured out that it's completely inadequate. I cannot retire. I just can't. I did have an expectation that the court would take into account the fact that, yes, my ex-husband had earned more than me from this period to this period of time, but that I had been at home with the children, that I had limited my income to support the children. One of our children is terminally ill. The vast majority of the hands-on management of her condition was mine.
Pretty confident that by the time I'm 30, I'll be in a place where I feel really materially and, kind of like in a general well-being sense, secure. I think that by the time I'm 30, that's something that I really believe that I will be able to achieve. But the reason for that is because I feel like I've put in a lot of effort to become probably an excessively hardworking person. If I'd gone to uni right after school, if I had still been in a pretty negative household, if I had, gotten that degree, tried to get out of home, maybe had a lot of trouble finding a job or trying to find housing in this market, then I wouldn't be so secure.
When I was in high school, I thought by 30, I'd have a house, at least be on the progress of having kids, and I just kind of assumed that I'd fall into a job that, I didn't expect a perfect job, but I assumed I'd find something that would fit me.
I knew what the reality of being in your 50s and vulnerable and trying to find housing was like. And so I worked very hard not to end up in that situation, but I did anyway. So many women who are in the situation that I am in consider themselves to be lucky because they haven't slept in their cars. Not sleeping in your car should not be the sign of success for I survived housing insecurity. The bar should actually be in a developed, wealthy place like Canberra that my society supported me when I needed help.
As good of a place Canberra is, there is a lot that could be improved in my opinion. I think that a lot of people probably struggling, but not so much that you can see it. That doesn't mean it's not valid.